Alright, welcome back to Roguetech, and welcome back to your first playthrough. I'm just assuming future me has split this into the third video. I wasn't expecting the assassinate to be so interesting, but that's what happens when you're fighting against essentially a clan faction. So yeah, since we negotiated for minimum payout, we got a minimum payout. We didn't complete any of the secondary objectives, but we did complete the mission. So we got 37,500 C-bills after drop costs. That's fine though. Even though we took pretty significant damage. Yeah. The Bushwhacker got banged up a little bit. That shouldn't be too expensive or too long to repair. The Locust was fine up until that last hit from the Streak 4 at the end of the mission. But still shouldn't be too bad to repair because, I mean, it's a 20-tonner, so it didn't have that much armor anyway. 40 damage shouldn't be too long to repair. And it already had taken some splash damage. So there's a chance that the 40 damage repair isn't even an extra day compared to the damage it had already taken. The Hornet we knew was going to get shredded, and we knew was going to probably punch out, and we knew was likely to get scrapped. That's fine. I don't really care about the Hornet at all. At this point, replacing the small laser would be a day. Replacing the arm would probably be a second day. Like, we're looking at least 4+ days to repair this thing, and it's just not worth it. Our vehicles, we did lose the Copperhead, but we might not have lost it. And Horik is uninjured, so that's the important part. The other two vehicles survived, the two that we actually care about, so with that out of the way, let's look at this insane loot table. So, again, we withdrew. We took a little bit of extra damage withdrawing instead of destroying them for the extra payout, specifically to make sure that our 23 random salvage, or, I'm sorry, 18 random salvage, because it's total minus priority is the random salvage, but our 18 random salvage is going to be the best it possibly could be since we didn't destroy the lowest, well, other than the Blizzard transport, we did not destroy the lowest value things on the board. So yeah. Yeah, okay. Looking at the parts, we could take Arctic Cheetah parts. And you see it says we have 0 out of 4, but if we look at storage, I believe we actually have some Arctic Cheetah parts. 30 tons, 30 tons... I stand corrected, we do not have any Arctic Cheetah parts. So if we wanted to build an Arctic Cheetah, we would have to take all 4 parts. It's a 30-ton Clan Omni, so it's nice, but you saw last time I salvaged a mech to demonstrate you could potentially get absolutely nothing out of it. So if we took those 4 parts, that would literally just be another 30-tonner that we would then have to repair and build and everything. The Lamb, there's only 2 parts left because we did destroy a decent chunk of it. We have clan weapons on offer, but clan weapons early game are not necessarily the best idea, specifically because they generate so much heat. Like, the clan ER large is 45 heat, the clan ER mediums are 20 each, so especially for the early game, even though the clan medium heavies have 40 damage for 26 heat, that is still a lot of heat for a single weapon system. It is worth noting, heavy weapons, heavy lasers do have a inherent -1 accuracy penalty. So that also makes them less interesting, especially early game when we have very little to offset that. That said, a pair of clan micro pulse lasers is kind of interesting. They have the same range as an inner sphere small pulse laser. They still take half a ton, like a small inner sphere pulse laser is 1 ton for, I believe, 15 damage and more heat. So a micro pulse laser is just a half ton, but it basically is a inner sphere small pulse laser for half a ton instead of 1 ton. So that's interesting, and that is actually potentially a viable pick if there's not other more interesting things. Risk MMLs. Worth noting, it uses clan, SRM, and LRM ammo, but the thing that's interesting about MMLs is that they can fire either long-range or short-range missiles, which, yeah, when I was trying to undercut the minimum range, that's not possible when it's firing SRMs. It has no minimum range if it's firing SRM ammo. But it's fine. It's fine. I got through the mission without losing anything major, so it's fine. Clan SRM6s also use clan ammo, so that's the important thing to note. But you'll see that the SRM6 clan is 1.5 tons instead of 3 tons. So you can fit 12 SRM tubes, or 12 clan SRM tubes, into the same tonnage that a single SRM6 inner sphere would take. So those are interesting. Clan Active Probe. It is a probe, so it's the lowest tier, I believe, probe that you can have. It weighs 1 ton, it counters ECM and stealth by 1, but it increases sight and sensor range by 20% and 25% respectively. That's why you use a clan active probe. It's not really about the countering ECM and stealth, because there's better options for countering ECM stealth by 1. But for 1 ton, you're able to increase your sight range by 20% and your sensor range by 25%. So it's best used on an extremely long-range fire support mech. Here we have a battle computer energy, which we already have the clan fire control system, advanced targeting computer, that lets us use battle computers. We have a ballistic fire control system, or a battle computer, and then we could also grab a we could also grab an energy fire control system to put with the ballistic fire control system, so that anything except missiles in the mech would have the +1 accuracy. But especially early game, whenever you're looking specifically at the +1 accuracy being the most impactful, because your Mechwarriors don't really have a whole lot of accuracy already at hand, it's better to generally use 1 battle computer, since we're dealing mostly with mechs that are, 45 or less tons. Taking up a full extra ton to just make a different set of weapons more accurate isn't necessarily a efficient use of a tonnage. Especially since we're planning on, so far, putting the battle computer, ballistic, and the fire control system that we already have into the Omni mech that's going to be loaded up with machine guns and AP Gauss rifles. So if we took the battle computer energy, we would definitely want to take another fire control system that allows us to use it. And I'm pretty sure cockpit interface would let us do that. But yeah, cockpit interface, that's a whole other thing. So first things first, let me just skim through here. I'm pretty sure, no, it does not enable. It would say specifically if it enabled battle computers, it does not. But the biggest change from previous iterations of Roguetech is that things like the cockpit interface and direct neural interface require the pilot to have neural implants. So actually, I'm not gonna confidently say that you can use it without neural implants. You might actually have to have neural implants to even pilot the mech at all anymore. But we'll look at that later. So first thing to look at is it has night vision built in. Night vision is inherent to cockpit interface, period, which is awesome. Also, +1 maximum evasion pips and +1 evasion gain from movement. So it's really good on fast, speedy, high evasion mechs, but it also is good on slower mechs. So if you're only getting 3 to 4 evasion on a sprint anyway, getting an extra +1 evasion guaranteed anytime you move is a 25 to 33% increase, which is very nice. You're immune to headshot pilot damage, and it gives +1 to all pilot skills, which everything that gives bonuses to pilot skills also cannot exceed the maximum. So if you have +6 gunnery across your entire mech and you've got 10 gunnery on your Mechwarrior, you then have 16 gunnery, which is crazy, but yeah. It allows moving after shooting, so you can shoot and then jump for insane evasion from jumping without losing the accuracy to your shot. And it also gives minus 25% stability damage taken and 60 stability threshold because it is a gyro. So that is the downside. You can't use any kind of specialized gyro with it. But at the same time, it is the same stability threshold as the best gyros in the game. So altogether, it's a fairly solid system to pick up if you can use it. If indeed you can put a pilot in it that doesn't have a neural implant, or if you just happen to have a pilot that has a neural implant to use it with. Yeah, it is definitely worth picking, and I'm probably going to pick it. Oh, it also reduces bleed out speed by 50%. That's amazing. But it doesn't have an ejection system. Interesting. And I'm curious what all is part of the activation. 1% failure chance on activation and each turn until deactivated. Injures pilot on failure. So what part of that do you... Because I'm assuming the gyro-related stuff, like the grants entrenched after walking, the minus 25% stability damage taken, and the 60 stability threshold, I'm assuming that's just inherent. I'm very curious what all would be part of activation and what all would not be part of activation. Because if it only does all the things it does while active, that's actually a liability early game when you don't have the highest piloting, so your mech warriors are less likely to use it without it failing. So I'm definitely picking it for science, if nothing else. Absolutely for science. But yeah, that's really interesting. And also the 2 tons, 2 slots. Yeah, it replaces the entire cockpit, so I believe you actually save tonnage compared to all of the cockpit components that it replaces and the gyro. Don't quote me on that. We'll see once we go to install it in something. But yeah, it's solid. It's solid late game equipment. I don't know how effective it's going to be early game. We're going to find that out together. But very, very good system. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see whenever we go to install it. Clan cockpit, just +1 gunnery, period. Any mech you put it on, doesn't weigh anything, doesn't just install it and you get +1 gunnery. So that's definitely something I'm eyeing. Clan XL engine, instant pick. Again, as I've said before, Clan XL engines, if you lose a side torso, you do not lose the mech. In addition to that, if you end up needing to sell it for whatever reason, that's a ton of money. And immediately I see another pickup. So, Fire Control Target Computer Mark II. This does enable battle computers, but it also, more importantly, gives you 1 evasion ignore. Period. Just everything you shoot, whether you're using battle computers or not, you get 1 evasion ignore. And then you also get +1 to gunnery, which is, you know, comparable to any clan fire control system. Like, just clan standard fire control system, you get the +1 gunnery. So the biggest thing you get from the Fire Control Target Computer Mark II is the +1 evasion and enabling battle computers. It also, however, gives you breaching shot. So if there is ever a situation where you have one big weapon that you're shooting, it allows you to bypass guarded and cover. So that's cool. We're gonna definitely take that up. This is what I was talking about. I knew when we got the kills that we got, the way we got them, I knew we were going to have so much good stuff. This is a gyro defense double plus. 40 stability threshold, yeah, that's normal. But +1 max evasion, +1 evasion gained from movement, and +1 defense. So that's an instant pick. Gunnery support A is just, as it says, +1 to gunnery, and it takes the life support system A slot. So it takes no tonnage, the slot's already there in the cockpit, you just toss it in and you get +1 gunnery. Clan double heatsink kit, okay, that's, again, it's viable, especially as we get to heavier chassis, because clan double heatsinks only take 2 slots instead of 3 to get the double heatsink cooling. but we don't have enough to grab the double heat sinks and the clan double heat sink kit. That said, I don't think we have any double heat sink kits to use. Hold on. Equipment. Oh, no, we have one double heat sink kit. But we're building 3 mechs. So we're kind of incentivized to take one of the cooling kits. But if I'm going to take one, I would kind of rather take the prototype double heat sink kit. So, are there any protos? There's also a laser insulator, the clan. Yeah, here's a proto. Okay, so each proto double heat sink has -4 heat per turn, -4, not -6, per ton. So it's less cooling per turn than a standard double heat sink or a clan double heat sink. But it gives -2% heat generated by weapon fire. It also only takes 1 slot, so it is better cooling than single heat sinks by far, and it's comparable cooling to double heat sinks, but it only takes 1 slot per heat sink instead of 2 or 3. So it's definitely the best late game double heat sink kit, and it's definitely the best late game double heat sinks. But you don't get the -2% weapon cooling from the engine heat sinks. You don't get the -2% weapon cooling from any internal engine heat sinks. So you kind of want to have external heat sinks with proto double heat sink kits. This is what I mentioned before with the quick cell engine heat sink removal. You can actually get the same benefits, which I'm about to go over with the kit, but you have extra external double heat sink, proto double heat sinks to reduce your percent heat by weapon fire even more. So now that we've looked at that, let's go back up. Let's go back up and look at, where'd it go? There it is. The prototype heatsink kit. Just by having prototype heatsinks installed and using the prototype heatsink kit, you get a -20% heat generated by weapons fire. Now, that is about what the internal heatsinks would give. But because of the way the quick cell engine heatsink removal works, and because of the way the smaller cores with less engine heatsinks work, you actually get better cooling by having less internal heatsinks. So you get this 20% heat generated by weapons fire reduction, period. And then every external heatsink, whether it's an engine heatsink or just an extra heatsink, gives you an additional -2% heat generated by weapons fire. You can make very, very cold running mechs with very, very hot weapons. It's also worth 4.6 million C-bills. So it's very hard to pass that up, but it would only be usable right now with the mechs and the gear that we have sitting around. It would only be usable for the -20% heat generated by weapons fire and the -40 heat per turn from the internal engine heatsinks, which is arguably worse early game than just -60 heat generate, or not -60 heat generate, -60 heat per turn. So a standard clan double heatsink early game is likely to be better because you kind of have to build specifically a hot leaning mech to make good use of the heatsink kit prototype. It is really hard to pass that up, though. But we're going to continue down the list because I saw some other stuff. So, Lamb turbines, 2 stacks of 2. I would love to get either of those stacks for our Lamb that we're building, but I'm not going to pick them. Lamb XL engine. Yeah. It has to be a Lamb XL if we're going to put it in our Lamb. But since our Lamb is an Irby Lamb, I'm not actually going to prioritize the Lamb XL engine. I will be ecstatic if I get it randomly, don't get me wrong. But it does cause the mech to go down if we lose a side torso, and it's only an Irby. So it's not going to have the most armor and structure in the side torsos. So while it would reduce the engine weight factor by 33%, which could be very helpful for putting actual, weapon loadout and armor on it, the risk of losing it if we just lose side torso is too high compared to the other things we can pick. Moving on, laser insulator. Can be attached to lasers. Maximum of 1 per weapon, must be at the same location. The weapon attachment will modify existing firing modes. If the attachment is destroyed, the original modes will be used. This is one of the changes with the handheld rework. So before, laser insulators were basically just special heat sinks. But now, they specifically have to be attached to a single weapon, and they reduce the heat generated by a flat 3 and 12%. So if we put this, for example, on the ER laser, the ER large laser that's on the Bushwhacker, we would be significantly reducing the heat that the Bushwhacker generated, which you saw if we take any kind of heat damage in a hot biome, we are overheating if we're firing the laser very easily. But I don't think that the laser insulator alone would be enough to remedy that situation, and I don't think it's worth the priority pick. But that would be the one place I put it if I were to use it, is definitely making the Bushwhacker a little bit cooler, a little bit better. And it will never reduce heat generated by the weapon to below 1, so that's worth noting. But yeah, so that's also interesting. Would love to get it randomly. Then we have the Clan Mask, which, as I mentioned, it's lighter. It has a higher initial... Wait, what? Where's our Inner Sphere Mask? There. Okay, let's just one-to-one comparison. 5% of the mech's total mass. 4% of the mech's total mass. So the weight change is not nearly as significant as it used to be. Because this means on a 100-ton mech, it's going to be 4 tons versus 5 tons. So it's nowhere near as much of a reduction in weight as it used to be. 5% failure chance on activation and each turn until deactivated. 15% additional failure chance on consecutive turns is the same. 50% run multiplier is the same. Legs receive failure chance, 2 structure damage dealt to location on failure, 4 structure damage dealt to location on failure. Chance of failure is reduced by 2% per piloting skill, versus chance of failure is reduced by 2% per piloting skill. It's 3 slots instead of 4, and that's it. So you're saving 1 ton on a 100-ton mech, and you're taking up 1 less slot. And that's it. That's the only benefit of the Clan Mask over the Inner Sphere Mask. So no, it's not actually really a priority pick anymore. Like, yeah, it'll be neat to have it, because it is slightly better unless it fails, in which case it does twice as much damage. But, like, the damage isn't really what you have to worry about. It's the crit that you have to worry about with the failure. But yeah, no, it's legitimately the same, just 1 less slot and 1% less of the mech's mass. So a 50-ton mech, you would save half a ton and 1 slot. And that's it. So yeah, no, I don't care about the Clan Mask then. Clan Sensors, again, not a priority pick, and the only thing it has over the basic sensors is the 5% sight and sensor range. Tracker sensors are worth talking about. So, first things first, the +2 accuracy at extreme range and long range, and the -2 accuracy at short range, means... So, first of all, those ranges are based on your weapon system. If you have LRMs, the long range and the extreme range are going to start well beyond where a medium laser would even be able to reach to. But a small laser, for example, the extreme range and long range would be just a bit past the medium range, the optimal range. And the short range is half of your optimal range. So it's most effective on weapon systems that have a minimum range, because effectively the short range is a smaller range bracket. But the way range accuracy works just normally without the tracker sensors, is... So this doesn't actually really increase your accuracy across the board. What it does is it equalizes your accuracy. And your extreme and long ranges, instead of having a large penalty to hit, now have a smaller penalty to hit, without any impact on your optimal range. So again, it's best used for fire support mechs, and it's best used with weapon systems that have a minimum range, just because by virtue of having a minimum range, that means the total number of hexes that short range applies to is smaller. And that said, I'm not going to priority pick it. Tactics B is very similar to Gunnery A. It's just the life support B slot instead of the life support A slot, and it's tactics instead of gunnery. And then the ammo, again, if we want to run any of the clan weapons, we would need clan ammo. The clan Inferno SRMs is what we were getting shot by a lot with the MMLs, which is plus 6 heat per missile that hits, but minus 90% damage, so it does 1 damage, but plus 6 heat. And 1 burn strength, 1 burn duration, which to this day, I don't understand why it says 1 burn strength, 1 burn duration, and target generates 1 heat for 2 turns, unless it means the 1 burn strength and duration is the hex being on fire. But at the same time, I have no way of actually testing that, really. It's very hard to keep track of exactly how many missiles have been hit by, how much heat is from the fire that got, created in the hex you're standing in versus how much is being generated from the missiles having hit you, etc., etc. But in general, higher burn strength, higher burn duration, and targets generate higher heat for longer turns is just better. So the goal is to just generate a lot of heat on the targets, and the main way you do that is by hitting with the missiles, doing 6 heat per missile. Also worth noting, since heat is, I believe, doubled for vehicles and tripled for buildings, that is insane damage to vehicles and buildings. But, again, we would need a clan weapon system that can fire it, and we would need the clan ammo to fire it, which means minimum of of 2 priority picks. So, all that said, what is our last pick? The Fire Control Target PR Mark II is just a instant pickup. It is a very, very good fire control system. It is one of the best fire control systems in the game. And the cockpit interface is also something I'm picking up instantly because science, and even if it's not as good as I think it is anymore because you now can't use it without neural implants, we have a Mechwarrior with neural implants. So yeah, we'll definitely be able to make use of it. Clan XL Engine is always just a no-brain pickup, especially early game, for all the reasons I've already gone over, and Gyro Defense Double Plus is arguably the best gyro in the game. Yeah, it doesn't save you any tonnage, but it just, by default, makes your mech safer. And any damage you don't take is time you don't have to repair, and money you don't have to put into repairing, so arguably best gyro in the game. But then again, I do like mechs that go fast, so yeah. Also worth noting, we're not going to be able to use the defensive double plus gyro with our Omni mech because Omni gyros are built into Omni mechs and cannot be replaced. So all that out of the way, I think the play is to grab a heatsink kit, in part because we're building 3 mechs and we only have the 1 double heatsink kit available. And if we need slots on any particular mech, like for example the Lamb, it might be useful to have the clan double heatsink kit and clan double heatsinks to slot in for 2 slots instead of 3. Which is actually part of the reason I'm going to pick the clan double heatsink kit over the Proto. The Proto is worth more money, but it's a more late game heatsink kit, and we already have the 3 double heatsink clan that we can use with the clan double heatsink kit, whereas if we're building anything under a 250 core, we would absolutely need to also pick the Proto double heatsinks, which is each 1. So even if we get lucky, we're probably not going to get both of them. But it is worth a lot more money, so if we ended up selling it, it would be the better pick. But I think we're definitely going to use the clan double heatsink kit. And that is how we're going to build all of that. We also don't have Clan Pharaoh or Clan Indo, which we are building 3 mechs, but we don't actually have Clan Indo on offer, do we? Because I saw the Clan Pharaoh, do we not? Oh no, there it is, Clan Indo. We are building 3 mechs right now. Although the Lamb cannot use the Indo and Pharaoh. I believe you have to specifically have Lamb armor and structure. But we have the hybrid TSM, which is interesting. We have, you know, the quick cell structure. Like, this is actually a tough decision. Because we definitely want good cooling on the mechs we're building. Oh, that's a consideration. Okay. AP Gauss rifles. AP Gauss rifles reach 3 heat. So even if we're running all 7 that we have, that's only 21 heat. That's still single heat sink cooling territory. So I think the Clan Indo is actually the better pick over the Clan Double Heatsink kit. Just because it does free up tonnage, which will help us fit more into our Omni-Mech. But that said, the Double Heatsink kit Clan can be used in the Lamb that we're building to help us jump better, or the what is the other mech we're building? I don't recall, but I think I'm gonna go with the Clan Indo, in part because we do have potential slot issues on our Omni-Mech. Because we're gonna be putting a bunch of small weapon systems into it. So being able to save the tonnage as well as take up less slots might be worthwhile. But this is why I took the extra damage just running to the evac point and sacrificed the extra payout for destroying the secondary objectives. Like, the random salvage we're getting. Again, we're getting 18 random pieces of salvage. And I don't think there's anything on this list other than, like, the standard armor and the SRM2 and, like, stuff like that that I don't want. The vast majority of this stuff I will be very happy with. And yeah, that's how we're going to do it. Okay, that's unfortunate. The worst piece of scrap that we could have gotten, the Blizzard Transport. Unfortunate. The Puka Lamb, we got 2 parts of it. That's interesting, because the Puka Lamb is what a lot of the really good stuff came out of. So I would be interested in building that together, if only to try to get good stuff out of it later in the game, once we have more mech tech and we can more reliably get the good stuff out of it. Clan Flamer, I'm actually happy to see. That is a half-ton weapon that does, you know, does 5 less damage than a small laser, generates a little bit more heat, but also does 10 heat damage, and is super effective against basically targets that have bad heat management or, you know, battle armor and protomechs. So I'm fine with that. That's totally fine. Light PVC, I'm actually happy to see it. Very useful, 3 tons, 30 damage, very long range. Like it. We got the micro pulse lasers. That is actually really awesome. So, half ton each, solid damage, super high accuracy, love it. MML5 risk, okay. If we have clan ammo, that might find its way into something. The cockpit interface and Indosteel we picked, we got the 95 core. I think that was the lowest core available. So, I mean, we don't have one, and if we wanted to make a turret mech, a mech that only moves like 2 or 3 hexes max, that's a good engine core to use. It's -7 heatsink tons. We'll see. Clan XL we picked, fire control standard. That's unfortunate. But we did get Clan Pharaoh as well, so that's cool. So we got Clan Indo and Clan Pharaoh, because before we only had standard Pharaoh. But we got the gunnery A, so that's just +1 gunnery to someone. We got the Clan Double Heatsink kit, love it. Jump jets, don't care. Single heatsink cooling, don't care. We got the Tactics B as well, and LRM ammo, which it's fine because we didn't have any spare bins of LRM ammo. We got the Clan Swarm LRM ammo and the Clan SRM ammo. So we can actually run the MML, but we have way more ammo than we would need. So the Risk MML, let's just talk about it since we got it. Well, then again, I'll wait to talk about it till I actually plan to use it. But yeah, there's downsides to MMLs, but they're versatile weapon systems. So if you're using them just to launch one type of ammo, LRM or SRM or whatever, not super valuable. Although if you're firing 5 SRMs out of it, it is 1.5 tons instead of 3. So you can get a little bit more missiles for your tonnage, but you just have so many downsides that it's not really worth it to just run one type of ammo. Okay. Also, I failed to point out, there were no pieces of our Copperhead left, so we did save it. Which means we lost very little. 67,000 C-bills in 7 days. That's a little bit of an oof, but considering what we got out of it, I'm totally fine with that. Also, it's mostly the Hornet, which we don't care about. Yeah, that's... okay. So, we have less than 20,000 C-bills worth of repairs, and in 2 days, the Bushwhacker and Locust will be back up. But we're going to bump the Stealth to the top, so now in 3 days, we will have the Stealth, Bushwhacker, and Locust ready to drop. As well as Braver, Tainted Loki, Rusalka, Sarge, Horik, and Scion. So that's a full drop in 3 days. But yeah, we're gonna jump into the mech bay real quick. We're gonna look at the Hornet. And again, I'm not really interested in spending 4 days and 50,000 C-bills to repair this thing. If I'm going to do that, I'm gonna do it with the Assassin. So we're just gonna scrap the Hornet. Goodbye, you served us well. And actually, while we're at it, we could, before I forget, build the Stinger and Kabuto and just pull whatever out of them and scrap them. I think I will, because I have no actual intention to actually run either of these 20-tonners. And yeah, we might get something usable, maybe. And if nothing else, we're clearing up some of the salvage that we're going to pay for every financial report. So, right now we're at 915,182. Put the Stinger together, it's not going to have much of anything useful in it. So we're 915,182, and then once we scrap it, wow. A busted jump jet, 2 busted heat sinks, 2 not busted heat sinks, and 2 not busted jump jets. Yep. That's that's putting a 20-tonner together, and we scrap it for 37,000. And now, why'd our financial report go up? Okay, so I stand corrected. Is it because of the stuff that we got out of it being, like, more expensive to have sitting around than the parts themselves? So what did we get? We got 2 busted heat sinks. Yeah, that's what it was. 2 regular heat sinks. Okay. That is interesting. That is very interesting. So having stuff sitting around is actually less beneficial for the financial report. And then we had, what, 2 regular heat sinks? So we saved 1,000 C-bills by selling literally everything we got out of it. But we would have actually paid less for the financial report by leaving it as salvage just sitting around than we would have if we had built it and got anything out of it. Like, if we had gotten any components we wanted to keep, it would have been more expensive for the financial report than just having it sitting around in the storage. That's interesting. So we're definitely not going to build the Kabuto then, because it might actually have something we want. and it would cost us 36,500 to build. So no, I think I'm going to sit on the Kabuto for a bit. I'm never building this World Scout. Ever. 1 medium laser, 711 movement, nah. So 914 goes to 779, and 779 drops to 521. So even scrapping this stuff is a very, very marginal reduction to how much we're paying. Heavy-wheeled APC, machine gun array, machine guns. Only has 280 armor, eh. And yeah, that's like negligible. The Blizzard transport was just the LRM-5. No, thank you. Weapons carrier we're going to hold out onto, because even though this weapons carrier is a large laser, there are other weapons carriers that are much more interesting, and we're going to save the mech parts. And the Saladin, I would love to get a Saladin. Only 260 armor, so it's not going to be able to soak as much damage as our, the Chaucer. But it would definitely be better than the Copperhead. The AC-20, if it hits at any point, will completely remove an enemy from the battle early game. The Defender with the double AC-2s and Vehicle Flamer, I don't think I... Well, then again, if we get a different Defender that has a better weapon loadout, I wouldn't mind putting a Defender together. Would I? It's only 245 armor. No, I think for that slow of a vehicle, I would want a more heavily armored, because the Saladin, the reason I'm okay with 260 armor plates is it has 812 movement. Like, it's as fast as our Locust. So, zoom, zoom, get in somebody's back, and then shoot them with an AC-20 is a good time. But yeah, so there we go. We cleared out a little bit of the storage to save ourselves 2,500 C-bills on the financial report, something like that. But yeah. So, yeah, in 3 days, we're ready to drop on another mission. Right, that's one thing I wanted to look at. If I go into here, if I drop in, I'm not actually going to do this, I'm wanting to see the cockpit interface. 38 goes to... Okay, 36.5. Oh, because the Duralast quick sell. Okay. 35.87 goes to 30, so it saves 2 tons. And you can either center torso mount it or head mount it. But yeah, 3 days to install. So we will mess with that later. For now, that's been your episode of Roguetech for the day. I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, have a good one. Okay, so I was advancing time to just throw the cockpit interface into a mech to test and see if I could drop anyone other than Hellion on it. And this popped up. This is one of the most interesting events in the game. So, if you have a criminal, specifically, if you have a criminal in your roster, you can randomly get this event. I'll let you read through it yourself once you find it, but basically there's a scheme that your criminal wants to pull off. He's going to bring somebody with him, so you have to basically risk something bad happening to 2 of your mech warriors. But your options are either tell him no, in which case nothing bad happens to either mech warrior, and I think he gets low morale, or low spirits. Let them try it without you doing anything, which has a very low chance of success and a fairly high chance of something bad happening. Or you can risk 1,000,000 C-bills. This has a fairly high chance of succeeding, but what you get out of it is complete RNG. So, I'm just going to demonstrate. You've put 1,000,000 C-bills in, so now we dropped half of our C-bills. We now tainted Loki as a criminal. Narf has high spirits, and we paid 1,000,000 C-bills for this. an Incubus 1, which is a clan mech, so we rolled high. It's almost always a light mech, but I have gotten, if memory serves, I have gotten a primitive heavy, and I have also gotten a just random medium. But I think it's like a limited value that you could possibly get. But here is the Incubus that we just randomly got. It is clan machine guns, clan medium lasers, clan large pulse laser, clan XL engine, clan double heatsink kit, clan Pharaoh, clan Indo, in mint condition, with a 270 core. How can I say no to this? How can I say no to this? Especially the real kicker of it is I only passed 1 day accidentally further than the 3 days I was already planning on waiting so we could drop these mechs on a mission. So I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it. And we're gonna look at it and we're gonna decide stuff to do next time. Although I am absolutely going to save real quick and then drop the thing and stuff. Okay, so it only saves 1 ton on a 20-ton mech. So it saves tonnage based on how heavy the gyro is. Because it only replaces the cockpit, and it basically replaces the gyro with 1 ton. So the heavier the gyro, the more tonnage you save with the cockpit interface. But we're going to wait the 1 day, and we're going to see, and I'm not actually going to save this. Okay. It's at the bottom of the list. We're going to wait the 1 day. Okay. And then if we go to drop on whatever, and if we have the locust, okay, there we go. So you have to have neural implants to use the cockpit interface, but it does save tonnage. It does a lot. So that's interesting. And I think Hellion is the only one we have with the neural implants. Yep. You can, I believe, on any clan planet, you can buy neural implants. I don't recall how exactly that works and how much it costs, but yeah. So, there we go. We took a part we can't really use in the near future for science, and we randomly got super lucky with a crazy scheme that cost us 1 million C-bills. But yeah. That's been your episode of Roguetech for the day. I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, have a good one.